At what point did content management systems become the thing, and did you ever roll your own?
Oh, yes, of course. I called it. Well, I was interested in HTML. There's these different link relationships where you can have like parent and like next and previous. And so I made a CMS that was like family, something related to the family, and you would create children pages, and then they would have siblings, and there was all HTML written to the file system. So I guess static site generator before it was cool.
Yeah. Nice. At what point did open source software and specifically like WordPress come into your worldview?
I had a blog that I made about linguistics back in, I think, three, maybe.
Okay.
It was through my host. There was a one-click install, and it was WordPress. So I think it was WordPress 1 point something. It was like super old. And I didn't do a lot of hacking on it back then, but that was my first exposure to WordPress. And then I've always really loved just open standards and open web technologies.
Hey everybody, it's Roger with Kinsta. I'm joined today by a new friend, Weston. Hey Weston, how you doing?
Doing well.
Awesome. Hey, we connected because you're a contributor for the WordPress project, and Kinsta's helping out support your work with that. And I wanted to just chat with you. And obviously we want to talk about the WordPress project. That's the most exciting stuff. But I'm really curious to like get to know you a little bit better and learn kind of your origin story. How did you like get into computers and WordPress and stuff? Take us back a bit. Like, do you remember like your first computer memory?
Yeah, we got a Gateway PC back in, I don't know, 1995 or something.
Yeah.
It came in the cow box, the spots, and it was just before Windows 95 came out. So we got Windows 3.1.1 for work groups, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so that was my first computer. Actually, we had a Radio Shack Tandy before that.
One drive or two drives?
It had no drives. It had the cassette player that you
Okay.
the programs into it via. So I remember, I think it was called Star Quest, and it was a game that was 2D black and white game with the monitor, molded into the keyboard.
Oh yeah.
That was my video games I had as a kid. And then we had a Pong game too that my mom had.
Sure.
My parents were not all on board with the video games for our household.
I was in a similar boat. So with the Gateway 95, I mean, the internet was right there. So with like AOL, Prodigy, how were you getting online right away?
We had Juno, our email service.
Yeah.
Dial up to get the emails.
Yeah.
And eventually we got GTE. They had a like 5 megabyte free website hosting service. So that was my first, I guess, attempt at getting a web page made. But
Okay.
I had to learn, or I had to use HTML at that time to be able to do that, and I didn't know HTML, so that was kind of a dead end. But then I was using Netscape at the time, of course.
Yep.
And Netscape 4 had a composer application that came with it that you could do WYSIWYG web page building. And so that's how I started learning how to make web pages. But it was kind of buggy. And because I was using these heavily table-based layouts, as you did back then,
Yes.
sometimes the nesting was so complicated that it would crash Netscape Composer. So that was what forced me then to dive into the HTML source so that I could make the change I needed to manually, because it would crash otherwise if I tried to do it with the user interface.
Yeah, it was always fascinating how much those WYSIWYGs just fell apart as soon as you started just trying to make some slight changes to them. All right, so then fast forwarding a bit, did you go to university for computer science or anything like that?
Yep, I have a bachelor's degree in computer science. And
Okay.
also minors in linguistics and Spanish. So I was wanting to study like computational linguistics, and I was interested in that intersection, but I found some crossovers, but I still appreciated that experience, and I still speak Spanish and love learning languages. I'm learning American Sign Language right now as well.
Okay. All right. All right. When you're in your comp sci, I took one semester of comp sci, and the thing that kind of drove me a little crazy in there was nothing was about the web or the internet. It was all just, we were doing like 3D graphics and stuff like that. Was that kind of your similar experience, or did your program kind of delve into the internet a little bit?
No, it was mostly us and just like operating systems and more lower level things. So most of what I've learned, or what I learned from the web about the web, was from getting like my first computer book was Perl for Dummies.
Okay.
From getting that from Barnes and Noble and reading it cover to cover, and I just ate it up. And then yeah, from there on it was a lot of the Dummies books.
Sure, sure. So the old CGI bin directory and building stuff. At what point did content management systems become the thing, and did you ever roll your own?
Oh yes, of course. I called it. Well, I was interested in HTML. There's these different link relationships where you can have like parent and like next and previous. And so I made a CMS that was, I think it was, I can't even remember the name. I think it was like family, something related to the family. And you would create children pages, and then they would have siblings, and there was all HTML written to the file system. So I guess static site generator before it was cool.
Yeah, nice, nice. At what point did open source software, and specifically like WordPress, come into your worldview?
I had a blog that I made about linguistics back in, I think, 3 maybe.
Okay.
It was through my host. There was a one-click install, and it was WordPress. So I think it was WordPress 1 point something, like super old. And I didn't do a lot of hacking on it back then, but that was my first exposure to WordPress. And then I've always really loved just open standards and open web technologies. All the W3C specs, I would like read them and like just study all the different aspects of them. And because WordPress was like had web standards as a priority, and like, those XHTML valid buttons,
Sure.
and all that, the emphasis on adherence to the web standards, I think, was attractive to me about WordPress. But then I started to use it in other projects, and I like to do things online and open and not closed source. Actually, there was one closed source project I had back in 1999 called Ruter Search, which was a Perl program for doing like a site search. I modeled it after Yahoo at the time, with all the search operators, before Google was, I guess, on my radar so much. But I sold copies of that, licenses, for like $25, and I think I made $200 from
Nice.
that. For me at the time, that was like living large. But
Absolutely.
yeah, ever since then, everything has been open source. I haven't sold any software that I remember. But yeah, so WordPress, open source, web technology, open web technology, open web standards, it's all like perfectly aligned with my interests. And started using WordPress at a agency I was working at in 2007, and kind of got them on board with using WordPress for building out their sites for clients.
Okay.
That was kind of the launch pad for me to then go fully in on using WordPress for client projects.
Okay. Okay. At what point did you start contributing to WordPress?
Well, let's see. I wrote a blog post about this that dives into the history, and now I think it was 2009. It's my first core props, but I started contributing heavily because at the time I was at XWP, and we had a client who we wanted to use the customizer for, so that they could have this live preview experience to be able to see the changes that they're making before they go live. And there were features that were lacking, which were needed for them. And so the biggest feature I started working on in the beginning was adding widgets into the customizer.
Okay.
And so it was basically like block builder 1.0 in WordPress, where you could have visual drag and drop of blocks, but in the customizer, and not using blocks, but using widgets and having the live preview experience there. And so we use that for clients to help them build out their like landing pages and index pages and things like that.
Very cool. And from then, and then that was it. As soon as you started contributing, you were hooked and you haven't looked back?
Yeah, the work that I did on the adding widgets to the customizer got me heavily involved in the customizer component. And then because of that work, I was given commit access to WordPress core back in 2015.
Okay.
And so and then I was co-lead of the 4.9 release and have just been consistently involved in every major release since 3.2, I think, or 3.5.
Wow.
I can't remember. My blog post is it all.
Absolutely, absolutely. So besides the customizer, are there any projects that are now baked in that really stand out to you that you were really proud to be a part of?
Well, the past couple of years, I've been heavily involved in the core performance team, and in that team, we have a plugin called Performance Lab, which is like a collection of performance feature plugins that are incubating for eventual merge into core, potentially, pending feedback from the community. And in that project, there's a plugin called Optimization Detective, which is a framework for collecting client-side metrics for how a page is actually laid out to be able to then apply optimizations more accurately than what WordPress can do on its own. Because say if you have a page that's laid out and you have an image, which is what's called the largest contentful paint, WordPress is going to guess what that image is going to be, but it doesn't know if it's actually in the viewport or not, in the initial viewport. And so you could be that the first image in the post is actually way outside the viewport because there may be paragraphs of text, or maybe it's visible on mobile but not desktop, or vice versa. So this project will let visitors to the site contribute those metrics for how the page is laid out to then be able to then better optimize those pages for future visitors so that the actual important elements get prioritized and how they get loaded. And if there's like a embed that, will change its height when it loads, like a tweet or something from Blue Sky or WordPress post embeds, it'll measure the height that those embeds have after they've resized and then reserve the space for that so that when they do load, they don't cause that layout shift.
Okay.
So a lot of optimizations are possible when you have those client-side metrics that WordPress doesn't have by default because it's a server-side, PHP-based environment.
Okay. So that's using all JavaScript and client-side operations.
Yeah, it's using Web Vitals library from the Google Chrome team, as well as, that's an abstraction on top of this underlying performance observer on the web platform. And so it uses that to collect those metrics about the measurements about where elements are on the page, which are in the viewport, which aren't on the viewport. And then with that data saved to the database, then all of those optimizations can be done server side with PHP. So there's no JavaScript involved at the actual serve time.
Excellent. All right. So very cool. Very above my pay grade here. I'm swimming in trying to figure out the words here. But sounds really cool. So, today we're at 6.82, I think, is coming out like today or really soon. Just came out. 6.9 is on the horizon. We're kind of getting roadmaps in. It's a little early to start speculating too much on that, but it sounds like you've got a project that you're hoping to get in there. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, there's one of the new features in 6.8 was this thing called speculative loading, which allows you to navigate more quickly to other pages on the site if you hover over the link, the browser will start to, or actually by default in WordPress, it's the conservative eagerness, so that as soon as you mouse down or touch down on the link, it'll then start making the request for the page before you release the mouse click or release the finger. But you can have it do more aggressive pre-rendering of those pages so that the navigations appear to be instant because the browser has loaded the page that you are going to already in the background. So it's basically the same as like switching tabs in the browser. Well, there's another much older ability related to that, and it's called the back-forward cache, or BFCache. And if you navigate around a random WordPress site, you'll notice, and you're not logged in, that navigating, most of the time, unless there are certain scenarios where this BFCache is blocked from working. But if the BFCache is working, if you navigate from page A, B, C, D, E, and then you hit the back button, then those back button navigations will be instant. The previous page will show up instantly, and then if you go forward, the next page will show up instantly, and that's the BFCache. But if there is a unload event listener, the page uses WebSockets, or the page is served with this no store cache control response header, then the browser won't put it in the BFCache, and so then the browser will basically have to rebuild the page from scratch. Whereas when it's in BFCache, an entire snapshot of the page, all the JavaScript, all the DOM, everything is stored there in memory, so that it's immediately there, available to you to go back to. But if BFCache is not available, then you'll notice that it feels sluggish to then go back and forward. And that's the experience you get now in the WordPress admin, because all pages are served when you're logged in, all pages are served with this no store directive for the cache control header. And that was done in part to prevent those pages from being cached by like a proxy, like Varnish or something, but also for privacy, because if you are working on something super sensitive and then you log out, well, if the pages you were working on are in BFCache, then you could just hit the back button to go back and see what those are, what was on the page, even though you wouldn't be able to make changes because you had been logged out. So for those reasons, the no store directive was added, but there are alternative ways to preserve the privacy by this page show event listener and other mechanisms that I'm working on.
Yeah.
And then there's this no private directive for the cache control response header, which is what actually is intended for preventing those pages from being cached by proxies. So that's already there in WordPress. And so what I'm working on is there's a track ticket, and then I have a plugin that's pending for the .org directory. It's called No Cache BFCache, and it will allow you to, when you're in the login screen, there's the checkbox that says Remember Me.
Yeah.
Along with that, there's this new little sparkle button, and it will say, if you click on that, it opens this popover that says, now, new feature, if you remember me, it will also enable BFCache. And so when you have then logged in, it will then omit that no store directive from the response header, and then also include JavaScript on the pages to make sure that after you've logged out, that those pages in BFCache get evicted so that the privacy is preserved.
Okay. All right. So you're going to single-handedly improve the speed of WP admin.
Well, that is the hope that, in my own use of the WordPress admin, I was feeling it was painful for me to navigate around. So I wanted to improve it for myself.
Sure.
And so, and actually a couple of years ago, I think it was WordPress 6.5, there was a track ticket for the use of unload event listeners in the WordPress admin, which are another reason why BFCache is blocked. And so I was excited because I got that committed, and I was thinking, okay, now we're going to have BFCache. But then I didn't realize that at the same time, or shortly before, this other commit came in that added no store. So all that work to remove unload was invalidated by the no store. So it's revisiting that ticket from 6.5, and hopefully will allow for a much faster navigation experience in admin. And also on the front end too, because if you're logged in, this no store directive is sent to every request while you're logged in. So let's say if you have a WooCommerce store where you're logged in as a customer, or BBPress or BuddyPress, or membership sites, anything like that, you'll be able to benefit from this BFCache to speed up navigations.
Very cool. I'm looking forward to this happening, because I too would like to see things sped up a little bit in the admin. As far as working on this goes, if other contributors are interested in working on it with you, what does that look like in this instance?
There's a track ticket that is on the WordPress core track. And then I have a repo on GitHub that is open and available for anybody to contribute to.
Excellent. All right. Well, we'll grab a link for that and throw it into the notes here. The time has flown by. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I'd be remiss to not get at least some of your thoughts and insights on the hype of the day, AI. Are you a vibe coder? Do you utilize these tools when you're working?
I don't vibe code. I haven't tried it, but I do use some of the auto completion features in PHP Storm. I enabled Gemini Code Assist for GitHub. Okay. Which I've been really happy with because it basically adds a AI code reviewer to all your projects. And actually, I learned about it from Adam Silverstein because he had it for his. And so whenever I open a pull request, then Gemini Code Assist will give me a summary of the changes in the pull request, and then it will give me inline code review comments about areas of concern and it's caught things that I missed. So really useful.
Okay, so almost like a Grammarly for coding.
Yeah. I don't use Grammarly, but
okay, all right. I am the ultimate of laziness, so I use all of these tools. Although I don't code, but if I did, I would definitely use them all too. So that's great. I appreciate the insight on using AI, but maybe being a little bit skeptical of it. Maybe not both feet jumping into the deep end. Is that pretty accurate?
Well, I will use Gemini. I have Gemini subscription, like Gemini Pro, whatever it's called. So I will use it to brainstorm ideas and get code reviews, even like in the Gemini web app. But in terms of the IDE, I've still been exploring the best, I use PHP Storm, so I'm trying to figure out the best plugin, and there's various options, all competing, Gemini, ChatGPT, and then JetBrains' own plugin. So I'm still waiting to see who's going to win me over.
Okay. All right. So you're being wooed. I love it. This has been great, Weston. I really do appreciate your time and giving us some insights into your history and how you approached computers and the WordPress project. If people want to get in touch with you, ask you questions or pick your brain and whatnot, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Probably Blue Sky I'm on Blue Sky, Twitter, LinkedIn. You can send me a contact form message on my blog. So yeah, there's various ways.
Excellent. All right. Well, we'll have links for all of that in the notes for people to reach out and ask you all types of questions. Really great talking to you. I look forward to speaking with you again soon.
WordCamp US, right?
What's that?
WordCamp US.
WordCamp US, we're 6 weeks out. So I'll see you there, and I'll hopefully see everybody else there as well.
Looking forward to it.
All right, Weston. Have a great day, man.
Thanks.